Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a new year of Sports Talk Philadelphia. I am your host, Tyler Harper. Ladies and gentlemen, it is great to be back here on LaSalle TV after a long summer off where a lot kind of happened a little bit in Philly sports. Lots of ups, downs, left, rights, twists and turns, but we're back here on LaSalle TV and we are ready to get right into it. And yes, I say we because we have a great panel here today to kick off the new year. Anthony Fleet, Alec Costival, and Kevin Cook. Guys, thank you very much for joining me. And now let's waste no time. Let's go right into some Eagles football. It was an interesting way to look at Monday night. Eagles-Falcons, primetime TV to start the year. A lot of people were predicting an Eagles blowout, but as we can see on the graphic here, that is not the case as the Falcons pulled off a 26-24 victory over the Birds. Well, they're both Birds, but you get the point. Matty Ice doing what he does, 23 for 34, 298 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks as well, but still getting the job done. Roddy White, 4 catches for 84 yards, and Jordan Matthews, 10 catches, 102 yards. And, of course, a key drop towards the end of the game. But there were lots of things that kind of contributed to this loss. There were unnecessary penalties. Of course, a Cody Parkey missed field goal. Lots of things piled up. I don't think you could point this loss at one certain thing. But, Fleet, we'll start with you. What are your feelings after this loss? Is there a sense of worry now, or how are you gauging this loss?
Well, Tyler, first of all, thanks for having me back. It feels good to be back on the show.
It's good to have you.
I'm not worried at all. I had a feeling with this game that the Eagles were going to start off slowly. So when they were down 20-3 at halftime, I really didn't think it was that big of a deal. I knew they would rally back and get a comeback, but it comes down to Cody Parkey missing that field goal. You know, I agreed with Chip Kelly's call to kick the field goal. You're in a dome. Cody Parkey, he had a solid rookie season. You have to trust your kicker in a dome to make that field goal. So really, I'm not too worried about it. I think they're going to crush Dallas this upcoming week. And, you know, the Eagles really get off and running.
Alec, what are your thoughts coming out of that loss?
Well, again, it's also good to be back for a second show. Well, I mean, there were a lot of different things in this loss. It wasn't just one thing or the other. Again, yes, the missed field goal was definitely a big item on the list. Also, Byron Maxwell on Julio Jones.
We'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Kevin, what are your thoughts?
Not worried at all. Also, great to be back. But the Eagles are, I'm not too worried from where they're at because, I mean, as we remember last year, they started down. They were losing to Jacksonville last year. The Falcons, much better team than Jacksonville. So I don't think there's much to worry about with the Eagles team, as I think at halftime, they made adjustments to come back in the game. And with the week off now to prepare for Dallas, I think that they're going to make the right adjustments to be ready for the rest of the year.
All right, and Kevin, let's go back to that Cody Parkey field goal because, I mean, as Fleet mentioned, you got to trust Cody Parkey in that situation. You're in a dome, but it was 4th and 1. So, some people are even giving up faith on Cody Parkey now. People are saying, cut him, he's not worth it because he struggled a little bit in the preseason. I'm not sure who you'd bring in at this point. I guess you hold an open tryout or something like that. But 1, would you have gone for it in that situation? And 2, how much slack should we give Cody Parkey?
I would not have gone for it. I probably would have taken the timeout and kicked the field goal. You got to if you have the chance to take the lead on the road in an NFL game, you got to do it, especially that late in the time. I think it was like only 2 minutes, 3 minutes left in the game. You got to kick the field goal. Could have called the timeout so Parkey had a little bit more time to set up. But as you said, I'm not too worried with Parkey being not as good as he was last year. I think he'll be just fine. He didn't play a lot of the preseason due to an injury, but there's not much out there. But with kickers, I mean, people can turn it on for a year and then be done. And then like journeyman kickers like Prater, he's moved all over the league, and there's a couple others that they can turn it on for one team and not for another. So if need be, you could find one, but I think Parkey's still your guy.
Alec, would you have gone for it on 4th and 1?
I don't think so. I mean, the running core was struggling in the game. DeMarco Murray didn't have much. Matthews, yes, he had the touchdown, but also still nothing much there. Sproles was really your only solid rusher in the game, so it's definitely a field goal situation. NFL, you got to make that kick, in a dome especially. Yes, he had a great rookie season. We'll see how that pans out this season and if that field goal haunts the Eagles.
Anthony Fleet, you got the headset on. What do you do? Do you go for the kick or do you go for it on 4th and 1?
Well, it's really easy to look at it in hindsight and say, I would do the opposite of whatever went wrong. But when I was watching the game live, I was saying to myself, listen, just kick the field goal. As Kevin said, take the points. You have the opportunity to take the lead late in the game, and you go out and you trust your defense to go out and make a stop. But, you just have to kick the field goal. And I feel as though converting a 4th and 1 is really hard. You saw in the Super Bowl with Seattle how hard it is, and they have a really tough physical running back. And you think of Chip Kelly's style, he's kind of a finesse kind of coach as far as his play calls. So even if they were to go for it on 4th and 1 and they try to run it, they would have been in shotgun. So it's really like more of a 4th and 5 they are trying to convert if you think about it, where he gets the ball. He's not running downhill, he's getting it. Like he's just shuffling over to getting the ball from Bradford, and you have to try to convert that 4th and 1. And it's really hard. You saw if NFL fans were watching the Seattle-St. Louis game, Seattle tried to run it with Marshawn Lynch again out of the shotgun, and they didn't get the 4th down. And, Pete Carroll's an idiot as a result. So either way, no matter which way it would have been wrong, it's easy to say, I would have done the opposite of what Chip Kelly did.
And another thing there is, Anthony brought it up, the Eagles' defense had dominated the Falcons for the entire second half. I think they only gave up the 3 points, the 1 field goal, the Bryant 44-yarder or whatever it was. So you got to trust your kicker to make that field goal and then your defense to hold them. And, the Eagles had the fast offense, and they still had 2 or 3 timeouts left at that point. They made the right choice in going for the field goal.
Yeah, I think you got to at least try to trust your kicker there. I know he had a rough preseason. I know he's dealing with an injury, but you got to trust him and you got to put him out there, because if you don't show that you trust him, how is he going to trust himself? And
just like
now people can say he missed it, so of course he's going to feel low, but he's got to just be like a closer. Just forget about the missed kick, just like you would forget about a blown save, and just go after it. But speaking of forgetting and trying to move on, I want to talk real quick too about that Jordan Matthews miscatch, because he was the first one to tell everyone after the game, look, I'm not going to make an excuse. I should have caught that ball. And you guys all saw him down there after he dropped it. He was down the field for a few seconds, just trying to collect himself, realizing that just hit his hands. So Fleet, obviously it's one drop ball, but how much did that one drop ball end up hurting the Eagles?
It was costly in the sense that it killed any momentum, any chance, obviously, that they had to drive down the field. It ended the game because the Eagles were essentially out of timeouts. So, it's just one of those plays. Things like that happen. Jordan Matthews, he took ownership of his mistake, and I think he'll really rebound from this. And moving forward, I think he'll be a really great target for Bradford throughout the rest of the season.
Alec, what do you think?
Well, this coupled with the missed field goal, it was, wasn't a pretty sight for Eagles fans. I don't think it will really hang over his head. Matthews is really, I believe, going to prove himself this year and really settle into one of the best targets for the Eagles this year. It is what it is. It happens in the NFL. You miss catches that you should have caught.
Yeah, very much. But speaking of catching and miscatches, we'll talk about someone who's the player of the week this week who didn't really miss much catches, if any. Julio Jones of the Atlanta Falcons had just a great day, showing why he's one of the premier receivers in the NFL. 9 catches, 141 yards, and of course 2 big touchdown catches. You guys see the little comments and questions I have there at the end, but let's start there. Did people forget how good of a receiver Julio Jones was? Because keep in mind, we'll say what we will about Byron Maxwell in a little bit, but Julio Jones, even before his injury and now even afterwards, is an all-pro receiver. This guy makes the money he makes for a reason. He just signed a big contract extension. So, how down should we really be about Julio Jones catching all those passes in the secondary?
Yeah, Julio Jones is an unbelievable NFL receiver. He's big, physical, has a lot of speed. But, Atlanta stinks, so nobody really pays attention to what Atlanta does, especially in the Northeast region where a lot of football that we watch. We don't really watch a lot of football played in the South. So, and couple that with the fact that, Atlanta stinks, so who cares about the Falcons? But when you play them, you have to realize how good Julio Jones is. And would I like to see some safety help? Of course, because he's just a physically dominant player. Mm-hmm. So Byron Maxwell, it's hard for any cornerback in the league, not just Byron Maxwell, but even the better cornerbacks would have a tough time covering this guy.
Yeah, I think it's around the same line. Julio Jones is that good. He is an amazing wide receiver. I've thought that ever since he came into the league a few years back, especially when he had him and Roddy White side by side. But yeah, there's nothing to say other than Julio Jones is that good.
But Kevin, I'll start with you. I don't know if you saw, but pretty much everyone on social media and just wherever they were watching the game, not too great things to say about Byron Maxwell's coverage of Julio. And some of it I agree is understandable. But like I said, Julio is a good receiver. But how worried are you about Byron Maxwell? I mean, the Eagles spent all that money on him in the offseason. And yeah, it's just one game. We'll see how he handles a Dallas Cowboys team without Des Bryant this coming Sunday. But are you starting to get a little worried about Byron Maxwell, or do you think it's just one game?
No, I think that Maxwell will be okay. I mean, Maxwell is not a shutdown corner by any stretch. Just because you paid him the money that a shutdown corner gets doesn't make him that. You're putting him up against Julio Jones, as these guys said, like he's a top 5 talent in the NFL. You also have to face Odell Beckham Jr. You're going to have to face Dez, as you said, but not this week. And other receivers like Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garçon in this conference. So he's going to have his work cut out for him. But you also got to remember who the Eagles were playing. The head coach of the Atlanta Falcons is Dan Quinn, who coached Byron Maxwell last year. He knows his weaknesses, he knows his strengths, and Julio is a faster player, which is one of Maxwell's weaknesses. And you saw the Falcons use that to their advantage with a number of slants and the go route to beat them.
Alec, should Eagles fans be panicking on Byron Maxwell just yet?
I don't think they should be panicking. I mean, maybe the little worry in the back of your head, but anything more than that, no. Again, what Kevin said, if you're going to give a guy the shutdown corner money, that doesn't make him a shutdown corner. And, he's going to have his challenges, and we're going to see in the coming weeks how it goes.
All right, and now we're going to move on to the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, Sam Bradford. Let's take a look at his stats and how he did, because honestly, he didn't do too bad. 36 for 52, 336 yards, touchdown pass, 2 interceptions, one, of course, being the one that went off Matthews' hands, so not really his fault, and a 77.1 QB rating. And you see, I put at the end, at least he didn't get hurt. But in all honesty, this is a really good game for Sam Bradford, at least a good start. So how confident are you guys in Sam Bradford leading the Philadelphia Eagles?
I'm extremely confident in Sam Bradford moving forward. Watching the game, there was people asking for Nick Foles, and even people asked for Tim Tebow. And for all of you people that were doing that, you're all idiots, because Sam Bradford is clearly more talented than Nick Foles, and especially Tim Tebow. Bradford, you could imagine, he hasn't played a regular season game in 2 years. So especially in the first half, he was really hyped up, really trying to just prove, like, let's do this, let's go, let's, put up as many points as we can, as quickly as we can. So he was probably just a little hyped up, had a little bit too much energy, too much adrenaline flowing going into the game, which is what you expect. Like, haven't I said that? He hasn't played in 2 years. But once the second half came around, you saw what he could do. He was taking everything that Atlanta gave him. He was hitting those quick, short throws in order to, just move the Eagles up and down the field. A lot of points were scored as a result. And if it wasn't for Parkey's missed field goal, the conversation would be much different as far as Bradford's performance.
And I want to talk about his energy, and Alec, I'll start with you on this, and then we'll go to Kevin, because reports came out a day or two ago that Sam Bradford at halftime, he stood up and gave a pep talk and gave his offense some energy and just got them ready to go out in the second half. How big is that in his first game in Eagle Green, his team's down in the first half, but he gets up and he's like, no, come on, guys, we got to get going, we got to move. How great is it to see that not only is he putting in some good stats on the field, but he's trying to be that motivator. He wants to be that leader.
That's fantastic. I love that feature of players. When you can get that leadership, that is one of the necessities to form a winning team. If you don't have that leadership, you fall apart. And, I mean, that's just fantastic that he was able to rally the troops. I mean, it was almost a fantastic comeback. Just fell short a little bit. But it's great to see that he's going and he's taking the leadership of this team by the reins.
And speaking of this team and how they attack people, let's talk about the running backs, because, of course, everyone was talking about the three-headed monster of DeMarco Murray, Darren Sproles, and Ryan Matthews. But not exactly the best results for one reason or or another, but let's take a look as DeMarco Murray, 8 carries, 9 yards, a TD run and catch. Darren Sproles, 5 carries, 50 yards, 7 catches for 76 yards. Alec, like you said, really the best running back of the day. And Ryan Matthews, 3 carries, 4 yards, a TD run, and 3 catches for 24 yards. Evan, did you like what you saw from the running backs?
Not really. I mean, with DeMarco's stats, that was a very bad showing for DeMarco in his first game. But I think a lot of that has to come from, like I believe Fleet said, running out of the shotgun. It's very tough for a running back to get the ball out of shotgun and work down the field like you want him to do. He's going to have to work off the tackle and take it to the outside. Sproles, you saw him succeed because he's faster than DeMarco and Ryan Matthews are. And the other thing that I think doesn't worry me too much about the running game is that the Eagles didn't take a chance on the field. I believe only 1 or 2 passes were caught beyond 9 yards. So when the Eagles need to spread the field, they need to have somebody go deep. You didn't see Aguilar targeted much, Huff. So I think that'll open up the game too.
All right, and now we look forward to the Eagles-Dallas matchup. Of course, Eagles-Dallas is always a big week here in Philly, but let's take a look at our first prediction poll of the year here on Sports Talk Philadelphia. We all took the Birds. I think we all kind of had to take the Birds in what is easily a must-win game. I have the Birds winning 20-16, and yes, don't adjust your television sets. Cody Parkey is my MVP. I think he's going to have at least somewhat of a bounce-back week. Not saying a game-winning field goal in the final seconds, but maybe just 2 key field goals from about maybe 37, 40 yards out, just to give him an edge and have him beat those Dallas Cowboys. Fleet, you've got 34-23 Birds, and you, like everyone else on the panel but me, have DeMarco Murray as your MVP.
Yeah, I think the Eagles bounce back, and I think they destroy the Cowboys this upcoming Sunday. No Des Bryant. They're limited as far as their offensive attack without DeMarco Murray as well. And DeMarco Murray, I think he's going to be the MVP because he really wants to stick it to Dallas. He's saying in the media, oh, I'm not really worried. I'm just going to take this like it's a regular game. I'm not trying to hear that. He's going to want to destroy the Cowboys, so that's why I'm picking DeMarco Murray.
Alec, real quick, 24-17 Birds, DeMarco MVP.
Murray because of the revenge factor. I mean, look at what Jason Worth did against the Phillies. 4 home runs in this series. It's always a revenge factor.
And Kevin, real quick, 38-24 Eagles, DeMarco as your MVP, real quick.
Yeah, DeMarco's going to go off. Big game for him, and the Eagles blow him out and come back 1-1.
No, that should be a big factor. So keep an eye out. We'll be back here next week talking about that big Eagles game, of course, as we always do. But now we move on to not so happy times for Philadelphia. Let's talk about the Philadelphia Phillies. Although maybe something a little bit to cheer us up, as we see on the graphic. Ruben Amaro Jr., he is no longer the general manager of the Philadelphia Phillies. He has finally been fired. I remember when this happened last week, I may as well have been doing backflips. Can we see this graphic, please? Because this is probably my favorite thing ever. Me and Andrew Albert made this 2 years ago. Ruben Amaro Jr. just standing there in the flames as it was announced last week that he will not be brought back to the team at the end of his contract this season. Fleet, we all knew this was overdue, but how overdue was it?
Probably 2 years overdue. If you watched any semblance of the Phillies baseball the past couple of years, you saw a pretty obvious decline. They literally went the whole roller coaster ride of making it up to the World Series, losing the World Series, and just it going downhill ever since then. And it went downhill pretty steeply and pretty stiffly. And I guess everybody except the Phillies execs saw that Ruben Amaro was, he just lost his touch with the team. And everything he was doing wasn't really helping convert the W's. So it finally happened, but I would say 2 years overdue.
Alec, would you say the same?
Yeah, I'd say about 2 years overdue too, because it has been that roller coaster. Not just from winning the World Series to losing it and down from there. I'm saying about Ruben Amaro and his handing out of contracts and what he was doing, whether he's trading away players or signing players. 2012, it seemed like we were going to start a rebuild when we sold Shane Victorino and Pence, and then next year we have, I don't remember who we signed that year, but we have
Marlon Byrd,
Delman Young.
I'm saying about Burnett the year after.
Yeah.
That contract I did not like, but I mean, I did like what he did at the deadline, and you have to give him credit for where the farm system's at right now. But I was so happy to see him gone.
I'm actually going to interject with that. Did he do that, or was that front office like Pat Gillick? I'm sorry, Pat Allen was on SportsTalk Philadelphia last year. No matter. Or was that Pat Gillick and the upper brass saying, and Andy McPhail saying, no, we're taking the reins from here. You're basically just going to stand there and fill the role.
Well, I think it was a little bit of everybody, but I believe Ruben was the guy in the middle of it. The guys texting all the GMs, seeing like where they're at on guys, who they're looking for, what can we get for this guy, how about this guy, you know, all of that. He was really in there, and I believe it was mostly him.
All right, well, obviously that's a positive, and let's keep trying to find the positives here on the Philadelphia Phillies team, because one of the guys who was brought up in around June, July time that we were kind of surprised to see up so early, but he's been doing pretty well, is Aaron Nola, who for a kid who was just drafted last year hasn't been doing too bad in the majors at all. He's 6-2, a 4.11 ERA, 59 strikeouts, and 11 starts. Like I said, I think this is a good start for the rookie. He's been looking well so far. He's probably not going to win Rookie of the Year by any stretch, but Fleet, we'll start with you. What do you think moving forward could be the future for Aaron Nola? Is he going to have to be the ace at this point?
I wouldn't say all that. It's been a pleasant surprise, considering how early he came up, as you said, and the relative success that he's had being in major leagues. His ERA is still a little bit high, but he's winning ball games. He's 6-2. But as far as him being the ace, I don't know if he has ace potential yet. I probably have to see him pitch a full year, where major league players adjust to his pitches and the way he likes to go through a game. I would have to see probably a full year before I can say whether he's an ace or not.
Kevin, real quick, what are your thoughts on Aaron Nola?
I really like him so far this year. Fleet said his ERA was a little high. I'd have to agree with that. For a little over 4, not too bad though, especially for a rookie. He's got 16 walks, I believe, which is pretty good, and 59 strikeouts. So I like where he's going and where he's heading.
Yeah, and real quick, let's take a look at maybe a good season. I don't know. It's tough to tell with this guy, but for Ryan Howard, the big piece, 129 games, which is the most he's played in a while, .229 batting average. We know that's going to be low. 23 homers, 77 RBI, and 138 strikeouts. He leads the team in homer and RBI, but Alec, I'll focus on you for this. Would you consider this a good year for the big piece? Real quick.
I'm going to say it wasn't a terrible year. Now, if you had asked me before he went like an 0 for 36 streak or something around there, I would have said he had a good, solid season, and he was the core of the lineup. At that point, he was hitting around 243, but then it all went downhill really fast. It was just crazy how bad it just went down. But I'd say it's not a bad season, but not good either.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting, and at least as of right now, he's still under contract with the Phillies for at least one more year. So who knows? Maybe a team will take a flyer on him in the offseason. I don't really know anymore. But we move on, and we move on to our favorite segment on the show, if I do say so myself, the Fast Five. Of course, 5 questions for the panel that they answer in a nice, quick, and timely fashion. Alec, we are going to start with you. This past week, Simone Gagne announced that he is officially retired from the NHL. Of course, the Flyers great, fan favorite among basically every Flyers fan. What are your thoughts on Simone finally calling it quits?
It's sad to see him go, but I mean, it was time for him to call it quits. I mean, I remember him. He was one of the key members of that Stanley Cup final. I mean, it was good to see him. I mean, even when he went to the Kings, I remember we were calling it the Flyers West. That's how
Gagne, Richards, Carter, Hextall, yeah. So, but yeah, it's sad to see him go. But like you said, it was time. And to be honest, I didn't realize he hadn't officially retired yet, because he, of course, took that leave of absence from the Bruins back in, I think, November. But anyway, congrats on a great career to Simone Gagne. Anthony Fleet, who do you think will be the unsung hero of the Philadelphia Eagles this year?
I think Darren Sproles will be the unsung hero as long as he gets the ball at least as much as he did Monday night. He was unbelievable Monday night. He was making plays. His speed really jumps out on the screen. It's incredible what this guy can do, especially at his age, and especially him being the Eagles' third running back. That's the only time you really hear Darren Sproles' name as a part of this three-headed monster, as people like to deem the Eagles' running backs. But individually, this guy is an unbelievable talent. He continues to produce whenever he gets the ball, especially how limited that he gets the ball. So you would hope that Chip Kelly can start to utilize him a little bit more out of the backfield and in the passing game.
Mm-hmm. All right, Kevin, we go to you. Cam Chancellor is still holding out for the Seattle Seahawks. I think I know the answer to this, and I think you know too, but is there any chance of the Eagles trying to get him? Or I don't see it, but do you?
No chance. Seattle is going to want to keep him as they should because he's one of the top safeties in the NFL.
Yeah, but
and
he's
to
hurt.
put him,
He's hurting him staying out right now.
Yeah, but to put him back, to get him back and put him with Earl Thomas and Sherman, and I think it's Kerry Williams over there now, they'll be happy with that too.
Yeah. Alec, you live in Reading, Pennsylvania, so who's the Phillies prospect that you're most excited to see?
I mean, you can't go wrong with J.P. Crawford, but the guy I like the most right now is Zach Eflin. He came over in the Jimmy Rollins deal. I've talked to the guy. He's great. Has great work ethic. I always see him out on that track, and I like to see that. Solid year at Reading and one of the core pitchers. That's one guy I think is a solid number 3 pitcher of the future for the Phillies.
All right. And Anthony Fleet, besides any NFC East matchups, what's the Eagles matchup that you're most excited to see this season?
I can't wait for the Eagles to go to Foxborough to play the Patriots. It's the week after they play their Thanksgiving game, so they'll have a couple of days extra rest. And Tom Brady, he's a psycho, and I love watching him play, and I'm really looking forward to see how the Eagles compete, especially up in Foxborough after Thanksgiving when it's going to be freezing, and Tom Brady usually steps his game up. So it'll be a really big challenge for the Eagles coming off of that Thanksgiving game.
You said psycho, and I didn't know what way you meant it for a sec. But that's our show, so thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you to Kevin, Alec, and Anthony for joining me on the panel today. But of course, you know the drill. You can all keep in touch with us on social media. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/SportsTalk Philadelphia. On Twitter, you can hit up LaSalle TV at LaSalle TV Philly. Of course, there's the email lasalletv@lasalle.edu. All our full episodes are on youtube.com/LaSalle56TV and the LaSalle website of lasalle.edu/LaSalle TV. All right, thank you for joining us. I'm Tyler Harper. Thank you for joining our show. We will see you next week.